Hello and welcome to our workshop, Turn Your Smartphone into Your Own AI-Powered Personal Assistant, all with the power of Snap. Um, First of all, I'm really happy to see a lot of people being actually in Heidelberg or Berkeley to like come together to enjoy this conference. Fortunately for me, it's the remote way of joining. Who am I? My name is Tilman Michaeli. I'm a professor for computing education at the Technical University of Munich, where we are engaged in research-based design of computing education with a really strong focus on K-12 education. We do a lot of stuff, for example, regarding debugging, data and literacy, collaboration in programming projects, quantum computing, digital education, and so on. The project I will present today is originated together with two colleagues of mine, Stefan Segerer, who's working at FU Berlin, and Ralf Romeike, also at FU Berlin. And I think I don't have to tell you that AI is influencing a lot of our daily lives, whether we like notice it directly, for example, in the context of autonomous cars, or maybe like in industry and this domain, or if we like, it's not this directly or not that obvious for a lot of users. For example, when we have Snapchat or Instagram filters, or how does Netflix or Spotify or whatsoever know which movie or show I want to see next, or which music might be interesting for me, or web shops that like recommend other products that might be interesting for me. And to this end, we, from the computing education perspective, would argue that everyone needs a certain understanding of the AI technology involved in this phenomena in our daily lives, to participate in such an increasingly digital world, but also to make informed decisions about AI and its influence on our society. There's a lot of content that students can and should learn, but it is really important that we are not like, we don't stop at this understanding the phenomena around us step, but we enable students and essentially everyone to actually get involved in shaping this world. And to this end, today we want to have a look at one approach at how we can do this in a like really fun manner in the context of personal assistants and AI. That's one of the like most common AI phenomenon actually. So Siri, Alexa, and so on. Personal assistants are common in more and more houses, and people use them. And especially traditional chatbots are a rather common theme within computing education to, in particular, discuss AI. So there's a lot of approaches in how we can, like, students can implement such a traditional chatbot. What we want today, what we want to do today is to go beyond this traditional approach. First of all, we want to use our smartphone as our actual personal assistants, as you can see here on the right, instead of just like having this communication text-based with our computer. We want to have an actual device that we can like get creative with. And furthermore, we want to use not only traditional logic and good old-fashioned AI that might be involved in chatbots, but there's a lot of stuff going on in natural language processing, and more machine learning is influencing how natural language is processed. And we have like this combination of traditional good old-fashioned knowledge-based AI approaches and like machine learning approaches, and that's something we want to incorporate as well. And that's what we're going to do today. We'll quickly show you what like at least our first step in this workshop will be. For this, I have here the respective Snap project. Just quickly check if the connection is up. And I can
connection ready.
Show you that in my smartphone, that's my personal assistant who's talking with me. And now he's asking me, I hope you can hear that at least a bit, how I am. And now I can actually talk with it. For this, I have just tap on the display. I'm good. And now we will get it.
I can't interpret your feelings.
We will get a response where he cannot interpret my feelings. That might be because I pressed too early and still talk with you. Let's have another try. Still was too early. I'm feeling great.
That's nice.
That's nice. So he reacts on my feelings that I tell him, and it's not like I have to use certain particular keywords as this would be in traditional chatbots. And that's what we want to get to today. I have for you, I already shared the link in the chat. I think I will do it again. The learning materials we use with students, that's a project aiming at K-12 students, mostly. Can open it here as well. Where it's a really fine-grained and stepwise procedure to get to this personal assistant, and we want to do this together now. In a first step, we want to like have a connection between our smartphone and the digital assistant you just saw, and the computer. And for this, we have on the smartphone to open a certain web page, which is described in the material, and then connect to the same room with Snap. Especially as we still have some technical issues, especially with devices, Apple devices. That's what we want to do first now. So having a bit of echo, I think. The first thing we want to do is now to like do this first page of the learning materials, getting started connecting our smartphone. And to this end, you just have to like go through these 5 steps that are rather self-explanatory, to connect your smartphone with Snap. So I give you about 5 minutes to successfully have this connection. For all the people that are a bit late, that's the link to the material you see here. And essentially the first step, just to have a connection between your smartphone, that should be the personal assistant. Later on, you have to open a certain URL, choose a room name or that you assign. That in the best case is individual, so you don't receive messages from other people's projects. And then open Snap and enable JavaScript extensions, and then connect with your smartphone and can test whether emotions or text-to-speech is working. I hope that by now most of you have already like opened the URL on your smartphone. What you can do if you are having problems with doing this on the smartphone, and like, for example, you have an Apple device that might be not working, you could just open it in another browser tab that works as well. So open this link on your smartphone, choose a room name, then open the snap window, and there everything you essentially have to do is to press the I key. Room name, you can choose the room name and just press the I key for initialize. No green flag, just the I key, and then you are reminded whether or not you have you have actually the activated the JavaScript extensions. If so, you choose a name. That's the same name you will have to enter at the web page. For example, I will choose Tilman 123, and the same thing I will do at my smartphone in the browser. And then it will say connection ready. You can just test whether it's working by pressing the T key, and then you will see, I will do this again, quick reaction.
Connection ready.
You just have to press the I key, and then you are asked what's the name you want to choose for your room. So if I activate just this script, do you have activated JavaScript extensions? And connected already. So can you press the T key and see that it works?
Connection ready.
Then there shouldn't be any errors in custom blocks. Well, when are you getting these error messages? When you are pressing I or T? Okay. That's strange because I'm not getting them. So as context, this is teaching materials for German students. So we just translated it for this purpose here, but that from what my testing, it still worked perfectly. I can connect here. I mean, I could we could do it instead of with the smartphone. Can test it here as well. I'll enter my room name, and I'll have my robot here and can connect here. And yeah, you should, to see the same language, just change your language to English. Then you will have the English translation. We still have the German as standard translation. Yeah, you're still in a connecting state. Which shouldn't be the case if you use the initialize. Wi-Fi access for phone is not required. No, we are using a custom server that's doing all of that, so you don't need it. I will just quickly repeat all the steps that are necessary. On your smartphone, you open this page, choose your room key, for example, my name, and then 123, or another number. Then I will see this first reaction here. And now I go to Snap, press the I key, activate the JavaScript extensions, enter the same room key, and now I will get a reaction from my smartphone or other browser tab. Now you should be able to test the connection further by setting the emotions. So we have a range of emotions for our robot face available, such as suspicious. And if I do this, you will see that face is changing, or we can have him be really sad or giggling. So what might be the case is that you essentially have problems with the actually text-to-speech. That's something we have commonly on Apple devices, but there shouldn't be any error messages if you follow the steps in this order. And now I can have him say whatever I want to. In general, the languages used that your smartphone browser is in for the text-to-speech. So if this doesn't really work well for all the English text I have here, you can either change the language in your browser, or probably easier, just use your language that your smartphone is working with. I can like have any text I want here.
Hi, Tilman.
And now I will get the according.
Hello, I am Tilman 123, your digital assistant.
And all of this is working. I hope that at least for most of the people, this connection is working. Be probably best if you could just quickly have a message in the chat that I know that at least for some people it's working, because I hope I shared the current project. Yeah. It's working for me. Great. So at least for some people, it's working. As said before, it should you shouldn't get any snap error messages unless there's, even if you don't have a smartphone connected. So it's just the room in which we broadcast. There shouldn't be any error messages if you follow those steps. What might be the case, especially with Apple devices, is that you get no text-to-speech. And in this case, you can still just use another browser tab, as I did before, and have all the features we have with our smartphone there. The next step we want to do is not just like, if we have this, we can just build this traditional chatbot approach, but instead of just interacting with text on our computer, we can have our smartphone that speaks with us. That's really cool, but just like nice feature, not really more than that. What we now will want to do in the second step is to use text classification to help the robot to understand language. And that's what you see here. Here we have an AI model that we train with different texts. I'm good, feeling great, I feel fantastic. And we can like have a lot of more of those examples here, and we assign a certain category, such as positive. Still have the German thing here. Such as positive, or other text prompts such as I'm not feeling very good today, I feel bad, please don't ask, that we could assign to negative. And if we yeah, just quickly click on the script. We get this classifier created, and now we can work with the classifier. Once more, that's something you can like do in the context of this workshop without having a working connection to your smartphone, because now we can use this model to get feedback on on new text. For example, I am doing fantastic will be evaluated as positive, while I feel absolutely great will also be evaluated as positive. What we're doing here, we would call sentiment analysis. So we have like text prompts and we try to evaluate are they positive or negative. Later on, we will see that we can do a lot more with this simple classifier. That's just for the first project. What we want to do is the text positive or is it negative? And in the accompanying learning materials, you will see a small exercise where you can experience with text. You can like with the classifier, we now trained with this rather small test data, and try to experiment with different sentences and how they are evaluated. And maybe this also gives you a hint at why this model might work this way if you like play around with the keywords. For example, if I would only use something like feel or feeling, it might be the case that it would be classified as positive because we have a lot of feeling there. Or if you use something like please, that's only currently in the training data for the negative category, it will probably be evaluated as negative, despite being an overall positive, what we would consider a positive text. So as pointed out in these materials, create a classifier yourself by just clicking on the script and then test it for 2 more sentences that might be interesting for you. And in the next step, add more text examples and train the classifier again to see whether this will make it better. And as I hope you already know, to like add new text examples, just click on the small black arrow here. Okay, I hope you experimented a bit with this classifier. There might be very interesting things. For example, if I would put at every good sentence an exclamation mark at the end, this would be something that would be or might be hint at might be a problem, for example, in classification. But by just providing more training data here and then create training by just clicking on it on this classifier, we have a model with which we can work. And in the third step, we want to basically combine those two things we just did. On the one hand, we have this hopefully working connection with our smartphone or browser tab. So far, we used it only one way around. So we used text-to-speech. We provided text or emotions here to output something on our smartphone, but it also works the other way around, which we will now see. And on the other hand, we have this classifier. I mean, this assistant, this small assistant here, will essentially ask you what is how are you? First of all, he will, just to be safe, connect with the room name, ask you how you are, and then forever we'll get the microphone input. We will in a bit see how this works. Determine a category for this microphone input by using this classifier we just trained. And then if the recognized mood is positive, react with an according mood or here emotion by smiling and saying that's nice. And if not, if the mood is negative, he will set the emotions on sad and I'm sorry to hear that, can I cheer you up? Or if he is not able to interpret your feelings, he will show this suspicious face. And yeah, to do that, it's important that we already created and trained a classifier, and then just again click on the script or click on the green flag. Then have
Hi, how are you?
My smartphone will ask me how I am. Now to actually have communication the other way around, I just have to click on the display. You will then see a recorder symbol showing up. I'm great. Then you have to click again to end your input.
I can't interpret your feelings.
And you get the reaction from the robot. So please test whether this is working or not, and experiment a bit with what you say and how the system reacts. You can see the microphone input, the last microphone input, just up here in this this variable. So she didn't really quite grasp what I was saying. That might be why we have like this unknown reaction, because he cannot really classify it as positive or negative. And if you're doing it in the browser, you have to click as well and allow for speech input. Any updates on the error messages you get? You might have gotten them because you pressed the green flag too early. That might be a possibility. Okay, I hope that this is working for you. What we just did is what we would do with the students in the first place, and like applying a use modify create approach with like not that many adjustments that are there, but just like experiment with the project that there already is. In the next step, this could be like modified a bit by just providing some further communication between the digital assistant and you as the human user. In the next step, after learning about this, how does it work? How can we, for once, use the, on the one hand, use the classifier, work with this classifier, and on the other hand, connect with the smartphone and use text-to-speech in both directions. Obviously, it's their turn to create their own personal assistant, and that's what you have the opportunity to do now for the next 15 minutes, which is not that much time, but we will see what projects you might be able to come up with. Some ideas might be an assistant who takes care of seniors and like talks with them, an assistant that recognizes diseases based on symptoms you provide and gives treatment advice, traditional expert system, an assistant who helps with homework, for example, training vocabulary, or a cooking assistant who says the next step in a recipe when you're ready. And for this, it's really important that we can do a lot more than just train a classifier to identify positive or negative emotions in text, but we can essentially classify everything we want to. It highly depends on the training data we provide, how good it will work. So, for example, we already had the mood, which was just positive and negative. We can also do happy, sad, melancholic, silly, and so on. We have illness, COVID, hay fever, whatever, based on certain symptoms. Could classify music, the user's intent, play music, start the timer, tell a joke. We would be really close to traditional Alexa and Siri and so on. So an exemplary dialogue could be like, what symptoms do you have? I had to throw up and have a stomach. And then the assistant might provide a diagnostic on this context. In the chat, there's the question why the room name must be set with set block. Why is there no UI for it? Essentially, the room name is just a variable we use. So you can we use here and then send it to our server. That's the way it works. So every way you want to, you can like set this variable room name that is also can have it shown up here what the current room name is. Sometimes after a bit of downtime, especially due to the rather strict browsers, it might be the case that you just want to reconnect with us. Just quickly press the T key and you can see the reaction or on your smartphone that the connection is back on, or just reload the page in the browser. That might also help if after quite some time the connection is not there anymore. So that's your task for the next like 15 minutes. Create your own personal assistant. Use this two features you have. On the one hand, the classifier, and on the other hand, the different emotions you can have your smartphone show and the text-to-speech in both directions to create something cool. And meanwhile, I will try to help with individual problems and error messages. I see that you are very productive. What I want to quickly share is the link with the German project. If there are any German educators or teachers that has all of that we just saw in German. Okay, I hope you had some time to play around. Still getting from 1 or 2 people some error messages, which we will have a look into because I struggle to reproduce them right now. But we will see. It might be also the case that I just we just had some problems with the quick and dirty translation of certain blocks and the inner workings JavaScript. So I hope you had some fun with the overall project. From my personal experience, I just find it super cool to actually be able to speak with my smartphone as it would be Alexa or Siri or whatsoever, and I can like be very creative and do super cool stuff. But on the other hand, I still see or illustrate the functionality of typical digital assistants on a like high level, and particular challenges of human computer interaction, such as that certain answers are not understood correctly or not parsed correctly and so on. In this approach, we go beyond the traditional chatbot approach, where there's a lot of teaching material and approaches for. So we have this designing approach, very constructionistic, and can not just only design the computational part of the whole thing, but also focus, as you saw in the picture in the beginning, on like within the teaching material, we have like template for how to build a box where you can put in your phone and so on. We incorporate the smartphone, and we also not just use traditional, if those words are used, then answer with that, good old-fashioned AI, but we apply natural language processing concepts in form of this classifier, which we can use in a lot of ways, but on the other hand, see what might be limitations, especially as we use a rather simple algorithm that allows for quick results with which we can work with. And with regards to pedagogy, we follow a use modify create approach, in which in the first step we have like we only use the system, explore features, and then make small modifications until we create our own personal assistant. We have done a lot more in AI education with and without Snap. For example, at SnapCon in the last few years. So we have a lot of unplugged approaches that don't use a computer at all, but then we transform into like implementing actual machine learning algorithms all together in Snap without using any using any exterior libraries or black magic, but doing everything in Snap, such as with this banana hand project and more. Furthermore, we have created them together with a colleague of mine, a MOOC calling Exploring the World of AI, which is has already over 15,000 users in OpenSRP, which is free, and also uses a lot of Snap to actually have a look behind the scenes and how do those AI algorithms actually work. And I put all of the links for this additional material here. So we have this especially unplugged approaches. Then we have a set of IT to school modules in AI, which I think are presented in another slot here at SnapCon as well. They're currently mostly in German, as is the stuff I just showed you. What you just got there is the rather quick translation. You can find the whole thing on this link though. And we have the MOOC, which is on OpenSRP, hosted on OpenSRP. First of all, thank you for your attention. I hope you had a lot of fun. And then there's room for questions. And there are already some questions in the chat. How much of the coding is in the Snap project and how much is in the web page? Actually, in this project, it's still not that much that's on the server. So on the server, we have essentially the broadcasting of messages in one room, so that we can build this connection between the smartphone and or whatever device you're using, tablets or whatever, and on the other hand, Snap. This allows for not having to be in the same Wi-Fi or anything. So that's done there, and we do a bit of the machine learning stuff there. On the other hand, the actual speech to text is completely done on the smartphone itself. That's something that's really important when working in German schools, that with rather strict data regulations, so no actual voice data is transferred anywhere. That's all done locally on the smartphone, like the text to speech and the speech to text. Both of that is done on the smartphone. If you want to, the server is mostly an interface layer. Yeah, essentially that's what it is. The classifier is done in Snap itself using JavaScript code, but not the server. You can also learn a bit more about what super simple algorithm we are using and what web API for the text to speech and speech to text. All of that is in the material at the bottom. I think there's some explanation. Yes, of course, I can put the links from the last slide in the chat. So we have, with regards to, should learn and now send it to all of you. We have a lot of unplugged, which is translated. We have more unplugged and different unplugged stuff also in here. That's, however, mostly German so far. And we have this MOOC that's available in English and German. I think that's the German link. Sure. Yes, that's the German link where you can find out more, not on this project, but yeah. This project is not so much focused on like formal learning, but more on having fun with technology, with those tools, still learning about them, but that's not so much in the focus as the creative design and having a cool project going on. More questions? If not, as pointed out, I hope you had fun and maybe, so most of the machine learning lives in JavaScript, but not in a library. It's, if I'm correct, it's all done within the browser using JavaScript code. You can just right-click at it and find it out. So we use here window.classifier. So that's all done with JavaScript in the browser without any exterior library store. And yeah, you can see create a new classifier and do stuff with it. And here work with that. The text to speech and speech to text, which is not really machine learning. It's natural language processing, but not so much in the context of machine learning. That's done in the smartphone itself, because it's super important that we don't send around speech samples of students on servers and store them there or whatever. Yeah. So no external libraries or anything. We only have the server, which is there to be the interface to connect smartphone and computer. Okay. I hope you have fun with that. If you do cool projects with this tool, we are super happy to gather them. You might have seen on the web page you opened on your browser. We're starting to have like a gallery of super cool projects you can do. And I hope you have fun with this and more at SnapCon in the next few days.